It is with great excitement that I introduce a friend of mine, Patrick Costello, who is the Senior Director of Business Development for Qualcomm Technologies Incorporated. And Patrick has a very special talk for us today. I'll let him self-introduce himself because he's a man of many accomplishments, and he has a great topic for us today. So I will just turn the camera over to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Molly. And first, just want to say I sincerely hope that everyone out there is staying safe and sane in this unique time, and as we weather this coronavirus storm together, obviously. And thanks, Molly, and the entire AI Showbiz team for inviting me today to speak and adding me to the roster of speakers. Should I just go ahead and share my screen at any point here, Molly? Or
yes, it's all yours. Share your screen. Also, Robin is here. She's our visual presentation expert. So if you have a problem, just speak it out and Robin will chime in. We have a whole team watching out for you.
Okay. Hopefully I'm doing the right things here. If you can't see that slide, let me know.
It's perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you. So thanks again, Molly. And as Molly mentioned, my name is Patrick Costello. I'm the North American Business Development Lead for our XR business here at Qualcomm. For the next 15 minutes or so, I'll be talking about how 5G, AI, and XR are going to be coming together in the coming age for a more immersive, intelligent, and connected future. That is more informally known out there in the industry. You guys have heard the term spatial computing, era of spatial computing a lot today. That's just is how we see this all coming together in the industry. So the way we should think about spatial computing really is that it's going to be a huge disruptive, a new paradigm in computing. It should be really going to be the synchronization and harmonization really of both the digital and the physical worlds, right? So every person, place, and thing out there in the real world will have a digital duplicate. And you've heard this term digital twin and mirror world and magicverse and metaverse. There's a lot of companies out there building these AR clouds and racing to be the one to have the most up-to-date, accurate AR cloud and real map of the world. So when we move to a head-worn user paradigm for AR glasses, what's going to happen is these glasses will then become a spatial browser for that world, a search engine for that world, right? This will be hugely disruptive, and the way we interact with the digital world will move away from clicks and more to glances through these glasses. So, we believe this is going to be hugely transformative. It's going to touch so many industries. It's going to change the way we play, the way we work, the way we game, the way we entertain, the way we communicate. It becomes hard to really think of any part of our lives that won't be touched or at the very least touched, but if not disrupted by XR. Just to give a little sense of kind of where we sit in the ecosystem, many may not know who Qualcomm is and what we do, but we're very much a technology enabler in this space. So we provide the silicon platforms and the XR software and the tools and the reference designs and SDKs out to our OEM partners to help them accelerate their time to market for devices. As you can see, we've now launched 30 plus devices with partners into the market. I would call these kind of like the first wave XR devices. There's many more devices in the pipeline. Devices on the VR side, all the way up to like an Oculus Quest standalone device, or Microsoft HoloLens 2 on the AR side, and everything in between, from assisted reality devices to even tethered viewers that might tether to a compute puck or smartphone. We work with all the major platforms out there. So we know that there's a ton of technological challenges before we get to this sort of ideal device of an always on, always connected, sensor rich, very powerful, high brightness, high field of view, high visual quality device, right? And the industry is working very hard to solve the power and thermal issues, the sensor fusion issues, the display and optics issues, the connectivity issues, all these things that will be solved. But what we do know is that 5G and AI are going to be foundational catalysts and foundational enablers to the progress that we're going to make on those AR devices in the next 3 to 5 years. So let's dig in a little bit on 5G to start. And so I don't want to get too in the weeds on the speeds and feeds and tech of 5G, but many of you I'm sure have heard that it's going to be huge improvements in latencies and throughputs and capacities and network efficiencies. It's going to be a big improvement in quality of service. So even if you're not in great coverage, you're still going to get a good consistent experience. We're bringing new spectrum bands into the equation. We're bringing new business models into the equation. So you're going to have things like private networks and unlicensed spectrum. So an enterprise or a factory can deploy a 5G network in unlicensed spectrum and not have to potentially do like an operator deal, a traditional operator deal. And then just a comment on the current, emergency situation. Obviously, I think I'm really sorry. My dog is scratching. Give me 2 seconds. I was able to keep my kids out of the room, but I didn't account for my dog, so apologies. Sorry for the noise. On the private network side, so we're enabling 5G to have all these new business models and spectrum. Oh, I was just going to make a comment about the COVID-19 crisis. If there ever was a time where we sort of underscored the importance of connectivity, it's now. Where we believe that 5G is going to become the essential backbone for a lot of these industries going forward. It's going to help us deal with crises like these in a much better way, in a faster way, because 5G is not really designed for any one device like mobile. It's really designed for everything, right? So it's taking into account factories and hospitals and schools and city infrastructure and transportation and vehicle to X communication. So it's really an important time, and this crisis is highlighting 5G in a very special way, and a lot of our operator partners are continuing to deploy in the wake of the crisis, and they're really leaning in. And to that point, on the commercialization side, just an update on that. So we've made a lot of progress with partners, operators. We're up to about 64 operators now globally who have deployed 5G in 30 plus countries. We have 40 OEMs bringing 5G devices to market. If you compare that year one announcements to 4G LTE, it's a pretty stark difference. These deployments are happening both in sub-6 and millimeter wave spectrums. And then looking forward a little bit, this is not a COVID-19 adjusted number, so we're not quite sure what 2021 holds, but we are expecting 750 million 5G smartphones to ship next year, and about 2.8 billion connections by 2025, 5G connections by 2025. So it's really accelerating rapidly globally. Well, what does this mean in terms of XR and these glasses we keep talking about? So if we start at the end where we know we want to be, which is a very powerful, lightweight 5G embedded device that connects out to a 5G network, where are we today, and kind of what's the rough timing on how long it's going to take to get there? So today we're working with partners that have lightweight. When I say lightweight, I mean like under 100 grams viewers. They don't have silicon or big processors in those viewers, but rather they USB Type-C cable up to companion devices, computing devices. That can be a smartphone, a 5G smartphone. It could be a 5G enabled puck. And then they use the 5G on the smartphone or puck to connect out to the network. That's going to be, you're going to see these deployments, second half of this year into next year. And then roughly 2022, 2023 timeframe, we're really going to focus on cutting that cable, getting rid of the cable. We're going to use 802.11, probably AX, AD technologies for that communication protocol between the lightweight glass and the companion device, and then again 5G out to the network. And then eventually we'll get to embedded 5G in a wearable form factor. So the reason this is so important is that it kind of resolves this natural friction that exists between coming up with a really lightweight, powerful form factor, but all these complex workloads that might have to run on the device today. So once we have the 5G networks deployed and in place, we can start to split the rendering and compute between the device and the network. So we can offload some of that GPU rendering out to the network. We'll still do some things on the device, like some of the 6-DoF head tracking pose will still be done. Perception compute might be done on the device, but that'll be sent out to the network for rendering, and then it'll come back for reprojection into the display at very low latency, using the very low latency and high throughput 5G link. Turning for a second to AI now. Mobile is the largest platform really in human history. We expect 7.8 billion phones to ship between 2018 and 2022. What a lot of people don't know is that even back in 2018, we had about a 10% attach rate on the AI for the smartphones. We expect that to be 100% in 2022. And these are the use cases for AI and mobile phone are optimization of video and camera and audio and security, face detection security, use cases like that. And again, laying it on top of where we're going with XR and glasses, what this means is that these devices will then be able to basically ingest, consider all of this contextual data, whether it's environmental data, device data that's being collected, maybe it's biometric data, be able to fuse it with contextual information already in the device, maybe from your history, and then also with off-device data like what's in the cloud, the AR cloud. And hopefully if we do it right, it's going to be a much more personalized and intuitive experience for the user, and it's going to have to be right because as an input device, glasses aren't natural. We're going to be using a combination of voice and eye tracking and gaze, and AI and machine learning will be a huge component of making sure that we can navigate the world with these glasses in a seamless, intuitive way. Just a comment on our XR2 platform, it was a flagship chip that we announced in December in Hawaii. The AI technologies are really a leap forward in this platform, very relevant to XR. Just to name a couple here, we did a demo in Hawaii where we did a real-time translation demo, where we had a echo all of a sudden, but we had a Mandarin speaking person speaking real time to somebody else, receiving that translation in English, and then the person would respond in English and would get translated back into Mandarin. So really intelligent, a really impressive demo. For XR, things like depth understanding, 3D reconstruction, object detection, and then things like occlusion, right? So if you have a digital asset that gets anchored to the real world and that asset has motion and goes around, say, a couch, you want that digital asset to disappear when it goes behind the couch, so that it doesn't break that sense of immersion. I'm going to close with just a couple of videos, if that's okay. The first one is from a company called 6D.ai, which actually, if you caught the news recently, was acquired by Niantic, and Niantic is the company best known for bringing Pokemon Go to the masses. 6D does a lot of spatial mapping technology, and the first video I'm going to show is this is all based with the smartphone, and this is actually doing SLAM or spatial mapping real time of an environment, and then this really just kind of creates that thin digital canvas that's used to then put digital augmentations on the real world and make them make sense and anchored based on whether it's a planar activation or and you can see on the apologies, on the bottom one here, what's especially impressive about this one is that this column has round geometry, right? So you have the spatial map of the column, and then you can have vines growing up around the sides of the column. And this is one of those mirror world companies we talked about earlier. This is one that it's one of our videos. It's kind of a tech marketing video to show 3D reconstruction and scene segmentation. So similar principle, it's going to scan the room, but then we can use AI to do scene segmentation. So maybe it recognizes, maybe it's a rainy day and it's been a rainy week and you're tired of feeling like you're sitting in a cold, rainy environment, and you scan your living room, and it recognizes it as a living room, and it turns these objects as a suite into a different environment for you. And the last one I'll play is one I like a lot. SK is an operator in Korea. They actually are sponsors of a baseball team in Korea. And on opening day, they did this really nice integrated campaign using augmented reality. And they integrated it with the live broadcast of the video. So people at home on TV could see this, what I'm about to show you. But then also they LiDAR scanned the stadium, and they knew where everyone was in the stadium. And people on the mobile phone could also hold up their phones and see this, as well as participate by cheering through the phone or voting through the phone. And you'll notice some really interesting like lighting and shading and plane detection elements here as well. So you can start to think about how some of our experiences will be shaped as we're walking around the world with head-worn glasses, and hopefully that one thing we really want to focus on is making sure we also have sort of the ethical frameworks in place, and we have standards in place so that we want to put the users obviously right in the middle of controlling opt-ins and things like that, so that we have a really good user-centric experience.